This episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast is brought to you by Faulkner University. Choosing where to go to college is a big decision, and Faulkner University is the right choice for many reasons. First and foremost, they're committed to biblical teaching. Each of their 85 outstanding academic programs infuse Christian principles into the curriculum and prepare students for professional success in their career and meaningful service in their community. Their main campus in Montgomery, Alabama offers an abundance of opportunities for internships, networking, and entertainment. Over 96% of their students receive financial aid, making Faulkner education a great value. Faulkner is a Christian university dedicated to helping you grow strong in your faith, and their family-like atmosphere will make you feel right at home. Check out faulkner.edu today.
Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor podcast, brought to you by Lads to Leaders, a weekend that's coming up April the 15th through the 17th in a city near you somewhere. Hope that you can be a part of that. And we are glad to have all of you back listening. Glad to see Travis and Will as usual, but even more glad to see someone that is way better and prettier to the eyes than Will over there in his screen with him. So it improves much, that screen on the other side, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you may be looking at this. We have Lynsey back with us, and we're thankful that Lynsey has decided to join us once again on the podcast. You know, we talked about, or we led off with compassion, the idea of compassion. What did you learn about compassion?
I hadn't really gone through this in the biggest people in my life, some of the biggest people in my life before. And so there were a lot of people that would check in on me. And I think it's hard because everybody comes to you those first, when they first hear about it, and then the week of the funeral, at the funeral, and then maybe a week after that, and then it's like, move on, and I mean, of course you can't move on, but it's like people they don't know what to say anymore, and they don't know what to do. And I mean, we never expected people to, drop everything they're doing and bring us food and, bring gift cards and stuff like that. I mean, that was wonderful. And I will never forget that. But it helped so much when there were those like first moments of like my birthday, Father's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving. I know one of my best friends that lives far away. I mean, I think she has it on her calendar of like, text Lynsey on this day. I mean, I know Travis and Ben, y'all have done the same thing. Like, y'all have texted me and just said, praying for you, thinking about you. And those moments matter because you're being thought of and you don't feel alone. Like, nobody's thinking of it. Yeah. That meant the most to me. I mean, the food, the gifts, the cards, all of that was wonderful. But, just those small moments of just checking in, or not even checking in. Like, you don't have to ask people, well, how's everything going? How are you feeling? Like, those aren't fun questions sometimes to answer, but, just sending a simple text and not even expecting a reply, that's really easy to do, and that meant a lot to me.
Technology is a wonderful thing. There's a calendar app in here in a week and a half. However, then I'm going to reach out.
Me and my cousins have always talked about this. Like, we're always thinking about it. Like, I wake up and I have pictures of my dad places. Like, in my classroom, I've got this little apple he made. I mean, all of our art in my house is of my dad. I mean, my dad did for us. And so, my cousin, my grandmother, like, I think about them daily, even though it's been the start of 3 years, since all of that's happened. I still think about it. And I mean, especially in that first year of loss, say something. Even if it's been a long time, even if you're like, oh, I'm not sure if I should say it, it's been a month or 2 months or 6 months, whatever. They're still going through a lot and they need prayers. They need somebody to say something.
I
They're
think
even a
they're
hug.
still a part of you. They're still a part of you, whether they're there or not. That, like I said, that stuff doesn't go away. And so that's one thing I learned was make sure that you ask them questions or make comments about things. I love for people, whether it's grandparents or aunts or uncles or friends that have passed, to tell stories and laugh about the stories because they're,
Yes.
it brings that back up, and people are afraid they're going to upset you by saying something. And if you say it, it's not that you're upsetting me. I was already upset. And I don't think we said much about what Lynsey does for a living.
My day job, I guess, is I'm a pre-K special needs teacher, and I teach 3 and 4 year olds. So my role is set up a little bit differently. I'll explain that very quickly, but I have a room. I now have 16 kids in my room total, and I have half special needs and half typical students. So I'm also kind of a gen ed teacher. So they're in my room all day long, from 7:30 to 2:20 every day. So I'm over my class, and I also work with the 4 year olds that have IEPs, that you know have disabilities. I write their IEPs and then I pull them weekly and just kind of work on their goals and, accommodations and all of that, just kind of help them to master some goals. So, yeah, it is a wild day every day, because we have a 3 year old right now, and
Wild anyway.
it's wild just with one, but put 16 in there and it's organized chaos for sure. So
I always thought you were really cool. But listening to that description of all the things that you have to deal with, all the things that you juggle, and then it really sounded like you said you're a Jedi teacher. But I think you said a gen ed or a
It's the
general
same.
ed
general
teacher.
education
A
teacher.
lot
But I
of
think-
mind tricks involved.
I like Jedi. I think
I
you're a
like it
Jedi
too.
teacher.
That's way better.
So I
Yeah.
like it. I like it.
That sounds cool.
The IEPs alone, like you said, all those IEPs, and I was sitting here going, "Oh man!"
Yes.
I mean, wow, yeah, that's
Yeah, it's about 20 pages of paperwork.
Yeah.
And I have meetings all throughout the year. So if there's a student that is in our specific area, and they qualify for special needs, then I write an IEP and they can come on their 3rd birthday. So, like, I have a student that may come starting April, which is obviously close to the end of school, in May. So, in October, I had like 12 kids and now I have 16. So it's constantly changing.
Wow.
And I'm constantly getting new ones. And I'm in a lot of parent meetings and the parent trainings. I train some of the parents, and just try to help and encourage and teach, some strategies and things that they can use at home to kind of help, their kids. So
my older brother is 46, maybe about to be 47, in a wheelchair, cerebral palsy, and he's a handful now. So I can't even imagine, taking that. And I'm sure there's varying degrees of special needs that you have, but just multiplying that by 2 would be more than I'd be running and screaming into the night. But I'm a high school, middle school teacher, and there's a great honor on people who handle the littles anyways. I then throw on that. So as we talked about in the last episode, compassion, there has to be a lot in what you're doing. And then to, be multifaceted in your approach is impressive, to say the least. If we stopped there, that would be amazing in itself. But, how do you do that? If you go, I've got this one since August and now I'm getting one in April. how do you bring them in and I guess the word is assimilate to some degree, teach them kind of the rules of the classroom, how those things go?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't really planning on sharing this, but I think that it kind of helps with how I got to where I am. But I struggled in school with math. Math was not my thing. And so when Emmy gets to do math, that is all on him. I had, to have help in that area, and I just don't understand math. You can do it a million different ways, and I just don't get it. And I got very frustrated with that. And so whenever I was in college, I was going into education anyways. And I was in a class for special education, as that was one of my classes that was required for my degree. And I remember calling my mom after that class, and I was like, I'm doing this. I'm changing my major to special education because I was going to do K through third, I think. Or K through sixth. And I changed it that day because I understood more about myself in that one class than I ever did my whole life. That learning is different for everybody, and it's okay if you don't understand or you're not good at something like everybody else. Not everybody's good at every subject, and that's okay. And I always felt like that was just a part of me that I didn't like and I didn't want to be known for. But I started realizing as I got older, you know, me feeling the way I felt growing up in school, I think I can help other kids and relate to them a little bit more than somebody that just could fly through school with, flying colors. It was just something that I felt passionate about, that I could kind of relate. And yes, autism or cerebral palsy or Down syndrome or developmental delays, whatever it is that the kids that I work with, I don't understand their situation. I never will be able to understand what they go through on a day to day basis. But I think just feeling the way I did growing up with certain subjects in school, I don't want those kids to feel that way when they're with me. That they don't matter, or that they are dumb, or they're not going to go anywhere, or they can't do something. And I am just teaching pre-K, but that is such a vital part of their life. We're teaching them life skills. I'm potty training a lot of them. Actually, shout out to my parents. They're potty training them while I try to handle some other stuff. But I mean, we try to just help them succeed in the classroom. And that's a huge part of it. But I can't lie to you. I am not always patient. Sometimes I get really frustrated or I get extremely overwhelmed. But I think just trying to go back to that feeling of how I felt and letting them know, like, it's okay. And if you don't understand, like, we're going to get there. And it may take longer than, I want it to, or their parents want it to, but just working with them and loving them and just, I don't know, trying to be patient.
One of the compassionate things that I see with Lynsey since we started dating was Lynsey was totally frustrated with labels, because when she was coming up through high school, sometimes there were people who would put a label on her because of her struggle in math, whether it would be, here's the lower class, here's the, somebody's got to be pulled out, or here's the the general class or whatever. Like, and yes, here's Lynsey who struggled, who also has a degree, had a higher GPA than I did, all these things, and was successful. And she can take that down to other kids and families and go, look, I understand these labels and we're going to break these labels. You're not going to be labeled as a person based on intellect. Like, you're going to be labeled as a person because you're a person that God created.
I can remember those people that kind of discouraged me, or made me feel like I couldn't, you know, go to college or whatever. And that was terrible. But I remember the people that, were very supportive of me, and I thrived in college because I started to find something that I loved. And like you said, like I had a higher GPA in college than I did in high school because it was something that I cared about and I loved and I wanted to do. So I try to be that person for these kids, even if they're 3. Just, you know,
I'd
thinking
say that's the big thing. At such an early age, having someone who believes in them and will push them. Because
yeah,
let me tell you, these kids know how to work the system. They
yeah,
know
yeah,
that hey, they're gonna. These folks look at me differently. I remember Bradley. He could get away with murder, man. Because
yes,
he said, "Well, who's gonna call him on?" I'll call him on it. I
yep,
know. I give him a hard time, and I push him, and I gave him
And he
all the
ran
grief.
over you for it.
Yeah, he ran over me for it. We were brothers, he was my brother and we treated each other the same way. And so I was always kind of like, no, you can push him a lot harder. You
yeah,
can push him a lot harder. And so the cheerleading aspect isn't always like you're saying, you try to be positive, you try to be, but it's also being hard on them a little bit and
yeah.
going, I expect more. You have more to give. To have that at such an early age is
Yeah,
such
I've
a
had
start.
parent trainings and I'm like, you've got to push them. You've got to do this or this or this. And they're like, and I'll tell them they do it for me. And they're like, no way. There's no way they do that for you. I'm like, I promise you, like, I'm consistent along with the women that I work with, and we push them and they know what we expect out of them. And a lot of parents don't realize, like, start early, do that now. So I think part of that compassion that I try to work on daily is it comes from that and my own experience. You know, even though it was just math, like that was a big deal in my life. Like that was just something that hung over me, and I can't do it. And
It's
so
every year. It's every year. You're going to take a math every
yeah,
single year
yeah,
until you get to college. Yay.
right.
Well,
And now I count to 20 every day. So,
well, you
figured
were
it out.
saying that, and both times you said, that I try, and you're like no compassion on yourself at all. Because I'm sitting here thinking like, you have 16 kids you're dealing with and writing IEPs, and you're questioning your patience. Like the fact that you're even,
Well, plus 8 because I have 8 in the other class. So the 4
yeah,
class.
There was the humble brag right there.
No,
You
no,
forgot.
no, no.
once again,
No, that sometimes because there's so
even more.
much, I feel like it's difficult.
Yeah.
And that's
It
the
would be
part.
difficult on any human. We've
Well,
learned you're human. That's what we know, is that you are human.
so
You're
the
not a robot.
only way that I can be somewhat successful with what I do every day is the women that I work with. Teamwork is
Makes a dream work.
it does. We call
I was
ourselves
waiting
a
on it.
dream team.
Somebody had to say it.
I was trying to
Yeah.
hold off. Thanks, Will. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
we call ourselves a dream team, and we have like shirts and everything. So, but we know what to expect out of each other. We know it needs to get done, and when things get very difficult or we've had enough, it's time to tap out. And that's something that we have to do. And I think you can do that as a parent too. I mean, when things get hard and you're being a little frustrated, or raise your voice a little too much, maybe it's time to tap out. And I've tried to learn that through school. I mean, the only thing that we can do is put them in timeout for 3 minutes, and sometimes that just doesn't work. But when I start feeling like, okay, I don't know if I can handle much more of this in this moment, I back away and somebody else steps in. And that makes us successful. And that helps us to continue to have that compassion instead of building up that constant frustration to where you aren't helpful anymore, for that kid. that's the only way that we could survive with what we do. But I mean, at the end of the day, we start seeing these little bitty moments of, whoa, like that's working, like they're actually doing what we're teaching, or they're saying stuff that we've been working on for so long. I mean, some of these kids I work on the same things for a couple of years. And then something finally clicks, and that's really, really cool. But
I think it's interesting to think of the idea of compassion by teamwork.
Yeah.
I mean, the more I've watched Lynsey with, and I would consider these women like Lynsey's closest friends, because they're in the trenches every day together. And it's like you hear other people go, and I'm sick of work. And I'm going, if anybody has like the validity to say they're sick of work, it's Lynsey and these women, but it's like they continue to get up every day and go, hey, we're going to go give it our best. And I'm just going, there's got to be something for this care and compassion and patience that is rallied among people. And I don't know if that's from the counseling world too, but I mean, it seems interesting that if we struggle to be more compassionate, or if we struggle with compassion and patience, surrounding ourselves with more people who can tap in and out seems to be a really good way to go about it.
Well, I was sitting there kind of thinking about all these things that you brought up, and like if somebody's thinking like, okay, what are some things that would help me in these scenarios? And it's all pretty biblical if you really want to break it down. But you said the teamwork is the thing that helps you guys when when you get weak, somebody else can step in. When you're strong, somebody else can take a break. And that idea of teamwork, taking a break when you need to. You also mentioned like using what you've been through. Your struggle helped you help other people through their struggles, and we've talked about that countless times with Jackie. And anything we go through qualifies us to help somebody else through it. And then sometimes you just got to look back and go, okay, look at the things we've done right. We're focusing on the things that we have accomplished, and that sort of snowballs us to more things that we know we can accomplish if we stay with it. And if we're consistent, which is what you said, just being consistent on a daily basis in the way that you treat them, in the way that you encourage them, in the way that you push them. So there's a lot in what you said, not just towards what you're doing, but what anybody does. If we could all kind of take notes from that, we'd probably be doing a whole lot better in all of our individual tasks and services that we do.
It is that time on the episode with the Lads to Leader question of the day. I got two options for you. Okay. Two options. I'll let you choose. You can either give us the worst gift Will has ever given you. Has he gotten anything crimson?
No,
or maybe we should lay off of that. We don't.
Hey, no. We want to talk about compassion. Like,
no, that's not good.
I'll talk about Auburn basketball.
I took her to the SEC championship when they played Georgia.
After we just beat Alabama.
Not too long ago, she said, "I love you," and I said, "Babe, I love you more." She said, "No, you don't. I love you the most." So I looked at her and I said, "I hope Auburn wins this weekend. What about you?" And she said, "Yeah, you love me more."
That's pretty good.
It's in my blood. I just can't do it.
That's a pretty good story. Family devotional time. Fulfilling, organized, fun. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. Moses' words in Deuteronomy 6:4-8 to the children of Israel in the speech that closed out not only his ministry, but also his life, can be overwhelming at times and make us as parents feel like we could be doing more to disciple our children. In the fast-paced life that we live, we're usually just happy if everyone makes it out the door with their shoes on the correct feet. Planning and executing a family devotional time can seem out of reach. We're here to help. The Helping Healing Humor podcast has a tool to help you plan, organize, and execute a fulfilling and fun family devotional time for every member of your family from toddler to teen. As a member of the Ben and Travis Patreon community, you will have access to tons of content at a small price that will help you grow your spiritual life, disciple your family, or even lead a small group Bible study. Patreon membership fees will help our podcast continue to be better and support the cost of creating and publishing the content that our Helping Healing Humor community has enjoyed. Go to www.patreon.com/Ben and Travis to sign up. Hit the link in the show notes for this month's special offer. Well, before we head out, I would like for you to tell us about the Lifted Balloon Company, right? The Lifted Balloon Co.
Okay.
What is your area? Because we got a lot of people in the shows who listen for some reason to this podcast. So
Yeah, so I do balloon garland. It's just a little side business after school or on the weekends that I do, but I just take a bunch of balloons and string them together and try to make them look pretty for a party. So I do it all over the Shoals area, Decatur, Athens, Huntsville, Russellville, just around this area. So balloons make me happy and they lift other people's up. So that's kind of where I got lifted from. So yeah, it's just a fun little side business that I've really enjoyed. So,
and you can find her on Instagram.
Yes.
And check that out. She's does a great job. Beautiful.
Awesome.
I'm always amazed.
Yep.
I'm like, man, I wouldn't even get them out of my living room. They'd be, balloons
Yeah, y'all
everywhere.
saw them in our living room one
Busted.
day.
My kids have been beating me to death with balloons all evening today. So I'll keep them away from your garland. But Lynsey, we're so thankful for you joining us. It's been a great time. You didn't share too much dirt on Will, so he should feel good about that.
Nice.
So,
But thanks for letting Will hang out with us all the time too.
yes,
We should say that.
yes.
He loves
Very much
it.
appreciated. An opportunity for us guys to get together and be goofy together, and maybe we're a little less annoying on the day-to-day basis.
It's a dangerous text thread. It's a dangerous text thread.
It is, no doubt.
I don't even ask anymore. Just whatever.
It's probably-
He's over there
it's good.
texting and giggling. Like, what is going on? I don't ask anymore. So thank y'all for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.